guys, I'm Steph.
And I'm Richard. Question from K Beauty. Can you do a video talking about a typical Korean teenager's life? Like their daily schedule, how they interact with friends, family, and teachers, how they think about plastic surgery, diets, America, etc. Is a typical Korean teenager's life that different from other teenagers around the world, do you think?
I think that, yes. I think there's some similarities, but I think it's also quite different.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's different too. I think they're in school for longer hours.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be the big difference to me.
I think the school and the pressure. Like, I think Korean kids have a lot more pressure to excel in school than maybe in other countries.
Honey, you got cobwebs. Sorry, my mess. I got on the side too.
This hat was in storage for a long time. I thought I dusted them off.
Yeah, and the other thing is I feel like they are slightly more under control of their parents, especially their mother, than most other places around the world.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
It's not even funny how much school they have to go to in any particular given week.
Yeah. The intense pressure that Korean students are on to study for the Sunung and excel at that and get straight A's and the best grades, I can't even begin to describe it. I think Korean dramas kind of tell a little bit, but it still doesn't compare to the reality.
I do an activity with my students. It's a short one. It's only part of one class every semester where I have them tally up the amount of hours in 1 week that they attended high school. And then I tally up my hours, I write on the board, and they usually all gasp in surprise because my hours from approximately 7:30 in the morning till about 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so that's about 7 hours per day. 7 times 5 is 35. We never went to school on Saturday, so it was always about 35 hours. Well, a typical Korean high school student's schedule is usually at least more than double that because they have 8 to 5 with a 1 hour lunch break. 5 to 7 is usually dinner with parents, but then 7 to 10 they gotta go to study session. They all don't have to. It's not completely mandatory, but most must go in order to look good. Then when they're done with the 7 to 10 time slot studying, they sometimes go to Hagwon if they can afford it until midnight. That's a truth.
Yeah.
And so it's all day long until midnight, and then they wake up 8 a.m., go and do it again. That doesn't count the time they're riding the bus to school, from school. So the average number that the kids usually come up with in my class is 70 to 100 hours per week.
That's a lot of school.
That's crazy.
I mean, I spent a lot of time in school myself, and I would actually count more than, would you say 23, 32?
35 hours.
35 hours, because I went about the same number of hours, but I actually spent a lot of additional time at school, but it was for the activities that I wanted to do, the extracurriculars. You know, I was going to band practice, not band practice, I wasn't in band then. Choral practice, competitive singing practice, show choir, drama. I was doing all of this on top of the regular school. So I was at school from like 5 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night.
But it wasn't studying.
It wasn't studying. I barely did my homework. I was a bad student. Shame on me. But it was...
Yeah, another big difference here is there are no drugs at all, and there's very little drinking going on in high school. I have heard stories where kids have told me that they've drank or gotten drunk in high school, but it's usually once or some isolated incident that is very memorable for them. Whereas I feel like more and more, and there's plenty of kids that don't do this, but there's also plenty of kids in the US that do start drinking or smoking weed or doing anything else just to experiment. In the United States, it's very available. It's not available here at all, and so kids lead a very straight-laced life, which is a good thing.
Yeah,
when you're young.
I didn't drink in high school, but I know plenty of people who did, and I know also many people who not only were they doing drugs, but I knew people who were dealing drugs in school.
Yeah.
So it's very, very different from the Korean atmosphere of growing up in high school.
In the West, we're a lot more susceptible to getting in trouble earlier on. Another big difference is there's very little teenage pregnancy going on here.
Yeah, it does exist.
And they're starting to have sex more. Condoms are available.
You don't have as much teenage pregnancy, and I don't know if that's because you're having less sex or if it's because you have more abortions, which are technically illegal, but they find their way around it.
And also, I'm not sure about Europe or South America or Central America or Africa or Australia, but I do know that in the United States, lots of high schoolers by 11th grade and definitely into 12th grade are able to get part-time jobs and then therefore buy vehicles for themselves, or parents buy them vehicles. There's another big difference between the West, or at least the United States, and South Korea. In South Korea, Even the majority of my university students don't have a car, and half of them don't even have a license. They definitely don't drive in high school. I mean, they just don't. They either walk to school or they take the bus, or mom and dad drives them.
Well, I don't think you can even get a driver's license
until
in Korea.
You're 18, I think?
I thought it was 20.
Okay, it's 18 or 20. Well, it's probably 20 Korean age, which means it'd be 18.
The other thing I would say is dating kind of goes along with that line too. Yes, you have young people who are dating in high school. You do have it, but most people are so busy studying that they don't really have time for that kind of social life.
And they'll tell you that they're too busy studying and preparing for the entrance exam to have a boyfriend or girlfriend. Mom and dad forbid it also. So it does exist, but at a very, very low percentage.
And they start doing that in university, college as well. It's almost like American high school life. I found when I was a college professor that my students were experiencing what I thought was American high school life in college. Their freshman year, that's their freedom. That's when they get away, they don't have the schedule, they have the freedom to date, to start to drive, to get the cars, experiment with alcohol and get drunk for the first time, and I just hit my hand. They're experiencing that all at once they finally graduate high school and get to college.
And I do see the effects of some of them not doing so well in my class. They work so hard in high school that they think university is time to take a break, which in some cases it is. Some of their freshman classes are very easy. They don't do very well sometimes, which is actually very normal. I had friends in college, half of all my friends dropped out after 1 year because they weren't allowed back. And so I don't even see a difference there. Oh, and they don't have part-time jobs in high school either.
Not usually. I do know of a few exceptions, and I actually had former students who dropped out of high school and got jobs and started working and then worked really hard to study and get their GED to go to college.
And the only exception to all this, I would say, is if you go into the entertainment industry or say a professional sports track. I mean, the people who become K-pop stars don't follow anything we're saying at all.
Entertainment stars, people who already have a set field, whether they're going into the arts, if you're acting, singing, dancing, you know, there are some exceptions to this. You can go to performing arts high schools and get your high school education that way. I think there are also other technical high schools that you can go to and study for a special field.
But you would start that very early on, and therefore you would be following that and whatever that entails, and that is not what 99% of them do. Most of them can't even afford that, and so they just go on this regular track of leading their life, which is what we're talking about here.
I also want to talk a little bit about high school life because, for example, I had a lot of students who attended all girls high schools or all boys high schools. I think that's starting to phase out, but it was definitely something for a very long time. So you didn't have the opportunity to date because you were around your own gender. There was also a big fear and respect of teachers because of corporal punishment, which is starting to also phase out, but it still exists to some extent. And I've heard some horror stories like you have to do your homework or you'll have to do like 500 sit-ups. There was a guy who actually had internal injuries. I read it recently this year. He ended up having internal injuries because he didn't do his homework and his teacher made him do so many sit-ups.
Oh my gosh.
There was another article about a kid who, I don't know what he was doing. He made the teacher angry, so the teacher slammed him into a wall and his head hit the wall and he had permanent brain damage.
Holy shit.
There was another kid who like disrespected his teacher, and so his teacher sprayed him in the eyes with bug spray.
What website are you reading?
Korea Times. Ilbo.
Oh my god.
Research it. It's nuts. As for their thoughts on plastic surgery, diets in America, etc. What do you think?
I think they're very open to plastic surgery at this point.
I think it's a high school graduation gift from what I heard. You know, like to get the double eyelid surgery is a very common, or your nose, for a high school graduation gift because they worked their butt off so hard.
We went out to dinner last night and I don't know if you noticed this, but it was a very young girl, probably early to mid 20s. She had a boob job.
Really?
Yeah, she had to have had a boob job because her breasts were very large for her frame and she was very young. I mean, it's the type of thing where boobs are popular to get done, not as popular as the double eyelid, but usually it's people in late 20s to early 30s that have this surgery done. She looked really young and there was no way her boobs were natural.
Aww.
No, it's fine. I mean, she actually looked very attractive and it gave her more confidence, but I guess it's something that a guy would notice more than a girl, maybe.
Probably. The freshmen, they'd go into class. Within the first semester, you'd see them, they'd come in with one eye patch. A couple of weeks later, they'd have the other eye covered. They'd have plastic surgery throughout their first semester. So they're very open to plastic surgery, most of them.
Yeah, and they're very open to diets too, especially the girls. I mean, a lot of girls coming out of high school or in high school, they are very conscious of dieting, and it's similar around the world. They watch what they eat, and they eat a lot of rice.
They eat a lot of rice and they eat a lot of ramen. The other thing that I will say is not only do you have entertainment culture showing you the S-line, chopstick leg girls, but you also have the size issue where it's harder to find larger sizes. Myself, for example, I'm gonna be honest and tell you my size. I wear a size 3 jean in the US.
Okay.
That's small. I have a hard time finding jeans in Korea because my butt is too big.
That's nuts. And the flip side to this also is because they're being schooled to death practically in high school, there's a helicopter flying overhead, that there is a category of young women especially, but also boys, that are overweight because they don't get any physical activity or very little physical activity, depending on the situation, whether they're walking to school and getting natural exercise or whether they're riding the bus. In their downtime, because they don't get that much downtime, they just want to relax and possibly eat and watch TV. TV is still really popular here amongst young people, way more popular I think than in the West at this point.
You know, you guys, I gotta be honest, I haven't taught high school. He hasn't taught high school in Korea. We've taught college and university. So we know about the experience of people after it. We're also not Korean, so this is kind of our impression, our observations, talking to people who've gone through it. But I do want to give a shout out to one of our friends who is a Korean high schooler who's going through high school. His name's Jae Hong Dae. We'll put a link down in the description box below. You can check his videos out. I think he's a little cutie pie, and I just really wanted to give him a shout out.
He's a senior in high school right now. Yeah, he's preparing for the Sunung. He's also on Twitter. He's been over our house. He spent Christmas with us last year. And he makes great videos in English on YouTube. So if you're interested more in specific experience from someone who's going through that right now in high school, he would be the person to contact or write a question to.
So that's it for today's Life in Korea.
K-Beauty, thanks for your question. We enjoyed answering it, didn't we?
We did, I had fun.
Yeah, if you have a question for us, drop a note in the YouTube comments on our Facebook page, facebook.com/HallyuBack, or in the comment section on our blog, hallyuback.com.
And like this video, give it a big thumbs up, click the like button, and subscribe, you guys, for Asian drama and Life in Korea videos.
That's it for today's Life in Korea. Experience it! Bless you.
Yes.
You okay?
I'm okay.
By the way, where'd you get that shirt?
I got this shirt. I knew that you taught it at Monroe High School, and I found this when we were at your house when I was going through your old boxes.
That's my shirt?
It might be.
It's not your shirt. You found it in a box at my house.
Uh-huh.
Oh my God.